I'm Tina. I still remember the day of my wedding, May 2nd. The ceremony was about to start, the string quartet was playing softly in the corner, and I was standing on the low platform, looking at my fiancé, Leo, across from me. Everything seemed perfect until the rear door of the ceremony hall opened with a loud click. In walked my mother, in a cream suit and a fake smile. Her voice cut through the music like broken glass. No daughter of mine uninvites her own blood. Especially not the one I spent 5 years force-feeding immunity smoothies while you puked your guts out every morning like the weak little girl you are. The whole room froze. But I didn't flinch. What she didn't know was that the man sitting quietly in the back row, Mr. Harris, had been waiting for this moment for 15 years. When he stood up, all the lies she had built, every hospital visit, every ruined life, every secret she thought was buried would be dragged into the light in front of all the guests. Let me take you back to how it all started. My mother, Mrs. Thompson, had spent years building a reputation as the perfect community woman in our small town of Millfield. She was on the board of the local charity, organized fundraisers, and was always the first to offer a helping hand. Everyone in town thought she was a saint. My father, Mr. Thompson, was a quiet man. He worked as a librarian at the local library for over 30 years. In their marriage, he had always been overshadowed by my mother, rarely asking questions and always going along with her. When I was 14, I joined the track and field team at Millfield High School. I was fast and had big dreams. But soon after, I started getting sick. I would throw up on my way to school, and between the 9th and 10th grades, I ended up in the emergency room 6 times. The doctors at Millfield General Hospital, including Dr. Green, ran all sorts of tests but couldn't find anything wrong. My mother would bring me these so-called immunity smoothies every morning. She said they would make me better. But every time I drank them, I felt worse. One day, Dr. Green, a wise old doctor who was about to retire, pulled my mother aside and quietly suggested running a heavy metals panel. My mother just smiled her perfect smile and said, "She's already had enough tests. Let's not put her through more." I was too young and naive to question her then. My track coach, Mr. Harris, was a former baseball player. He noticed that I was fine at track meets but sick at home. He started keeping a notebook, writing down every detail about my health and my performance. One day, he asked a nurse, Mrs. Lewis, to help him film the girls at breakfast during an out-of-town meet. She did, and the tape showed that I was fine until I had breakfast. But my mother found out about Mr. Harris's investigation. She wrote an anonymous letter to the school principal, Mr. Peterson, accusing Mr. Harris of inappropriate behavior with a girl. The exact details were never clear, but it was enough to end Mr. Harris's career at the school. His wife, Mrs. Harris, couldn't handle the stress and took her own life. Over the years, I believed my mother's story about Mr. Harris. She had always been good at making her lies sound like the truth. I distanced myself from track and focused on my studies. I went to college and graduated with a degree in architecture. I met Leo at a community housing project. He was a reporter for the Millfield Gazette. We started dating, and 2.5 years later, he proposed on the beach. I was overjoyed, but when I called my mother to tell her, she was cold. "He writes about people, sweetheart. You realize he'll write about our family." I laughed at her and hung up. Around the same time, I met a co-worker named Lily. She was also from Millfield and seemed like a kind person. We became close friends over the years. One day, while we were stuffing wedding invitations, she paused when she got to my mother's address and asked, "Are you sure you want her there?" I didn't understand the question at the time. Then, one day, the old personnel file cabinet at Millfield High School was being renovated. Mr. Peterson and Mrs. Reed, the retired school counselor, found an old letter related to Mr. Harris's case. Inside the envelope was a sticky note with my mother's handwriting. It listed the ingredients for my immunity smoothies, and there were some very suspicious items on it. Mr. Peterson called Mr. Harris, and that night, Lily, who was actually Mr. Harris's daughter, sat down with him and told him her plan. She wanted to get closer to me and find someone I loved to tell the truth to. She knew it was Leo. Leo received an anonymous email with evidence about my mother's misdeeds. He started investigating on his own. He found several victims, such as Mrs. Ryan, a former piano teacher who lost her students after my mother spread rumors about her, and Mr. Clark, a middle school teacher who was transferred because of false accusations. Lily invited me to her apartment one day. She sat me down and told me everything. It was a lot to take in, and I threw up in her bathroom. I called Dr. Green, and she told me that she had suspected poisoning back then but was threatened by my mother. On Valentine's Day, I called my mother and told her she wasn't coming to the wedding. She started crying and accused me of listening to someone. I realized then that she knew about Lily and Mr. Harris all along. In the following days, I received calls from relatives and the parish priest, trying to convince me to let my mother come. But I didn't give in. I also received a Nordstrom box with a pair of white infant shoes and a locket with my baby hair. Leo took the locket to a lab, and the results showed elevated levels of certain harmful substances. On the day of the wedding, Lily had carefully arranged seats for all the witnesses. When my mother walked in and started her rant, Mr. Harris stood up. Then, one by one, the other witnesses, including Mrs. Ryan, Mr. Clark, and Dr. Green, stood up. My mother's face turned white when she saw them. I stepped down from the platform and walked towards her. You just called them immunity smoothies in front of all these people. Let me read you the recipe, I said, and I recited the sticky note contents from memory. My father, who had been sitting in the front row, stood up and walked over to Mr. Harris. I ate breakfast at that table every single morning for years, he said softly. My mother tried to leave, but Mrs. Reed blocked her way. I looked at my mother and said, "You called me weak in front of all these people, in front of my father, and in front of the people whose lives you ruined. You can leave, but you can't come back." She adjusted her hat and walked out quietly. After that, the minister asked, "Do you, Tina Thompson, take Leo Parker to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do," I said, and I got married. In the following weeks, the Millfield Gazette published the story under Leo's editor's byline. My mother was forced to resign from all the community boards she was on. My father moved out of the house and into a small apartment near the library. He called me one day and said, "Kiddo, I need time, but I want to see you every week." I told him, "The library, Wednesdays. Bring me a book." He agreed. I didn't press charges. The legal process would have been too long and painful for everyone. Instead, I chose to move forward. I have Mr. Harris, who saw the truth when no one else did, Lily, who became my dear friend, and Leo, who stood by me through it all. Blood isn't just about who you're related to, it's about who stays and supports you when the truth comes out.